Even the most trivial skirmishes of the War in Heaven had made this battle look as dull as a moonless night by comparison. The galaxy would never again see the rapture of war on that scale. But back then, he had still been new to his immortal form, and his mind had yet to settle on the realization that death no longer followed, but one mistake's breadth behind him. It's estimated that there are 100 million black holes in the Milky Way galaxy, but not all of them were created naturally, so to speak. 60 million years ago, the Necrons and their new and impeccable allies, the C'tan, fought their ancient foe, the Old Ones, who in turn would raise allies of their own, such as the Eldari and the Krork. This galaxy-spanning conflict is known as the War in Heaven. The C'tan, who are practically star gods, and the Old Ones, who are practically frogs, were races so powerful mankind can scarcely imagine the extent of their destructive capabilities. It is said that the C'tan could bring black holes into being, and the Old Ones, having triumphed over them before, must have had power to match. The planet Tanithep would seemingly fall foul to this ability. Tanithep was a Necron battle station, a fully motive world, lost to a black hole which mankind would later call the Scorian Singularity. Trapped by this black hole, however, technically, the planet hasn't actually been destroyed. Not yet, at least. Due to the gravity lensing, time there had just slowed to a crawl. A few thousand years outside was just minutes on the planet. So in theory, it might be possible to travel to this planet. And of course, if the Imperium of Man wanted to achieve this, there's only one man for the job: Archmagos Dominus Belisarius Cawl. This endeavor would take Belisarius Cawl into a place no human being had ever been before: the War in Heaven itself. The problem, of course, was simple temporal mechanics. Forcing a modern timeline into a virtually frozen one would rip the planet apart. In order to make it to Tanithep, he would need to prove himself beyond even the greatest of the tech adepts of Mars. But at this point, when it comes to Belisarius Cawl's stories, that's quite frankly a given. Before we get onto that, however, we need to talk about another globally recognized, iconic franchise. And this franchise is about to have another massive crossover with a new external IP, introducing exclusive Champions-themed events and limited time awards. We are of course talking about Raid Shadow Legends. This deal is time sensitive, so you have to download it now. Furthermore, Ultimate Death Knight is back. He takes all the hits for your team. His passive Too Awesome to Die has a 100% chance of redirecting single target damage and associated debuffs to him, making him an absolute slayer in the arena and a counter to some of the best champions in the game. He is both that friend who volunteers as tribute and the emotional support skeleton because he shields your entire squad. He heals himself by watching your enemies heal and shuts down your enemies with provokes, fears, and debuffs. And the best part is you can get him for free right now by using my download link and using code UDKING in-game. Raid has an endless amount of content and it just keeps coming. My favourite part of the game is the Raid PvE mode, which goes so far beyond what you might expect for a cross-platform mobile and PC game. So what are you waiting for? Click the link in my description or scan the QR code on the screen. You'll get a series of incredible bonuses using my link. You instantly unlock the epic ultimate Galek. Once you reach level 15, you'll get another amazing epic, Zargala. Furthermore, new players can pick one of the 6 promo codes to claim a legendary champion of your choice. Ultimate Death Knight, Green Warden Ruark, Alice the Wanderer, Tuhanarak, Thorin Foulbeard, and Sun Wukong Monkey King are all great options. Remember, these champions are only available for 48 hours after you've downloaded the game using my link. You can find it in the description or the top comment. Don't miss out, we'll see you in game. Belisarius Cawl is the ancient, multi-talented assortment of brains who has been widely credited with rebooting the Imperium, of course with Reboot Guilliman at the helm. He played a central role in bringing back the Primarch, he engineered the Primaris Space Marines, he has led a renaissance in ship construction, but of course many of his fellow Magi prefer words like blasphemy for these acts. Indeed, there are many of his cult who view him as just a heretic. However, some see him as the greatest mind in the Imperium, including by, it seems, the Lord of Machines himself, Vashtorr the Arkifane. Perhaps those other Magi have a point. This Archmagos represents a rebellion against the strict dogma of the Adeptus Mechanicus. He embraces forbidden knowledge and innovation, and is even willing to explore xenotech and, rumour has it, new ideas. And in his new book, he gets a kindred soul. The Historita Majoris Solana was tasked with reporting on Cawl, or, as Cawl immediately points out, she has been paid to spy on him by the Primarch himself. Nevertheless, Solana of Mars is welcome in the company of Belisarius Cawl for her shared rebellious nature, and quite frankly, he needs all the help he can get. In the Dawn of Fire series and Belisarius Cawl's other novels, The Great Work and Genefather, we find out about the Archmagos' greatest project, the one thing that could save the Imperium of Man. He is trying to understand how to close the Great Rift. During the fall of Cadia, Trazyn the Infinite let slip more than he probably should have in front of Cawl, and the Archmagos came to understand a lot about the war in heaven, and in particular the Necron pylons that are scattered on planets across the galaxy. Cawl has come to understand that the Cicatrix Maledictum, the great tear across the galaxy, originated from a fault line in reality that the Necrons attempted to stabilize millions of years ago in the War in Heaven. The rift opened after Abaddon the Despoiler systematically destroyed numerous worlds hosting ancient pylon technology. These structures, which employ negatively charged Noctilith or Blackstone, previously helped ward incursions in check, such as confining the Eye of Terror to its historical boundaries. Cawl's ultimate objective is to replicate, improve, and restore the Necron pylon network across the galaxy to close the Cicatrix Maledictum entirely. His first major step on this journey, however, is to provide a proof of concept for Rabute Guilliman, and Cawl and Guilliman discuss this in the Dawn of Fire series. The Pit of Raucus is a relatively isolated warp rift, allowing Belisarius Cawl to attempt to calibrate his pylons and network to prove that he can actually close warp rifts. There's also a bit of a time pressure on this because at present Rabute Guilliman is on the other side of the Great Rift, having travelled through the Atalan Gap, and Cawl needs to ensure that the Atalan Gap is stabilised so Rabute Guilliman can return back to Imperium Sanctus and of course protect Terra. In the story Genefather, it was revealed that Cawl has made some great progress in creating his own pylons and understanding how the Necron pylons work. But the problem he has is coordinating them all together, especially across cosmic distances. He needs more information to understand how this is possible. This is where the planet of Tanathep comes in. This ancient Necron battle station was actually a world engine and housed an ancient data library containing the information that Cawl needs. But as I mentioned earlier, the entire planet is caught in the pool of the Scorian Singularity. The good news, however, is that because this planet has been caught by the black hole, the massive amount of gravity has caused temporal dilation, meaning essentially time hasn't really passed on the surface of the planet since the War in Heaven. Getting there is easy enough, but getting back, that's your problem. To reach his temporarily frozen prize, Cawl reached out to other Forge Worlds for help, Forge Worlds that had deeper knowledge of temporal anomalies. They constructed a massive heretical contraption called a frame shift stabilizer. This device, utilizing the Chrono Magi and a little Necron xenotech, projects what Cawl metaphorically refers to as a tunnel from reality to the planet. By all accounts, this technology should not work in Warhammer 40k and is quite frankly one of the greatest pieces of technology we've ever seen the Imperium produce, and the book does seem to imply it was most likely going to just kill them all. However, the stakes were so high they press ahead anyway. Along with Belisarius Cawl on this journey, we have Solana, the unwilling Historitor, Alpha Primus, the greatest and most powerful Space Marine in the Imperium, also Belisarius Cawl's son, according to the last novel, and of course the easiest Space Marine colour scheme to recreate in Space Marine 2. Then we have Kvo 89, the construct companion of Belisarius Cawl, and an attempt by the Archmagos to resurrect his long-dead friend Friedish. Kvo is the 89th attempt of Belisarius Cawl to do this, and he's almost a perfect replication of his old friend, but not quite, and incredibly uneasy about going on this journey. Finally, it's important to know that Belisarius Cawl is bringing a Necron along with him, or more specifically, he's bringing a Necron's head along with him, a cryptek named Azenth Ayu. Despite the fact that she of course hates humanity, referring to them as barbarians and primitives, Cawl had made modifications to her neural networks to hopefully ensure her compliance. As a chronomancer, she is indispensable to their mission, able to utilize a temporal manipulation device, and thereby she can project a temporal bubble, allowing Cawl and his expedition to safely breach the time-locked Necron world. Once they land on the planet, they are in the War in Heaven. They are 60 million years in the past, and a battle is frozen around them. The Eldari and the Necrons are doing battle around them, frozen in time. In their little bubble of time, they move across the planet and find their target, the Necron Data Nexus. Unfortunately, however, inside they find more Necrons, but not Necrons from the War in Heaven. Necrons who, like Belisarius Cawl, are conducting their own time heist, for want of a better phrase. These Necrons from the Induk dynasty had been fighting a civil war against their brethren in the Nihilak dynasty, when the Nihilak dynasty had infected them with the Flayer virus, threatening to turn them all into mindless abominations who wear the skin and body parts of their enemies. They too came to the planet, conducting their own time heist, hoping to access the archive in order to purge themselves of the Flayer curse. However, when they did it, their own temporal field failed, freezing them just before the flayed ones following them attacked through the Dolmen Gate. Hilariously, Azenth Ayu believes they might be her salvation, but she hails from the Nihilak dynasty, so they are entirely unwilling to free her from the primitives. Cawl, seeing a perfect opportunity, forms an unlikely alliance with the Necrons, agreeing to help them access the data archive. This team-up immediately attracts the attention of the Flayed Ones, as these carrion creatures now attack through holes in the spacetime. Alpha Primus fights alongside the Necron Immortals and is forced to utilize his incredible psychic gifts, enduring a murderous headache but deciding that he's not willing to die in this place, in this time. His master presses on and plugs into the archive, and when it looks like he's lost, his old friend Kvo, terrified but loyal, plugs himself in also to follow his old master. Inside this noosphere, Kvo and Cawl can talk. They realized that this machine knows it's dying and wants to be opened so its data can be saved. The Martians get the information that they need, and it's downloaded into Kvo's storage capacity. I will just note that after this point, Kvo does seem different, not just because of the massive amounts of data within him, but it appears that this whole process may have restored the original Kvo in some way. It's not particularly relevant to the story, but it's honestly quite a happy development for a character in 40k to get. After they exit the noosphere, their triumph is short-lived. The inevitable betrayal from the Necrons is announced. However, they knew that this betrayal was inevitable because the Induk dynasty doesn't exist in Cawl's time. You might think that this ancient pharaoh and his warriors outmatch the Imperium, but they are no challenge to Alpha Primus. With a small exertion of war power, he twists off the Pharaon's head. Cawl does take the Pharaon's magnificent war scythe for himself, interestingly, deeming it especially choppy. Normally, using Xenos weapons would be counted as heresy by the Adeptus Mechanicus, but at this point in the story, let's face it, we're very past that point. The mission is successful. They race out of there, and as they run, the Necron world's inevitable destruction is sped up, it falls into the singularity, and they make it out in the last microsecond. Cawl and his band of misfits escape safe on board the Arch Mechanicus, and immediately he issues emergency orders to travel to the homeworld of the Wolfspear chapter, a successor of the Space Wolves. Their planet of Ulfheim is near to the Pit of Raucus, and it's one of the places where Belisarius Cawl has been building his pylons. After they come out with a very turbulent emergence from the warp, they see that Ulfheim is under a massive attack. An attack coordinated by Vashtorr the Arkifane and led by his champion, Unthragor. Cawl and his forces, which include Imperial Knights, quickly charge towards the nearest pylon, which was being assaulted by the demon engines, as Vashtorr the Arkifane has come to understand what Belisarius Cawl is planning. Kvo 89 is plugged into the pylon network, and it activates. Soul Grinders and other demon engines felt the assault first. The field was an anathema to them, ripping their essences screaming from their engines. The demons nearby realized that the field threatened to give them a permanent death, and so they fled in terror. There were some negative consequences for the Imperials, as the psychic backwash affected mortals attuned to the warp, and some, such as astropaths, even died. The great climax of the book, however, is that Cawl accomplishes exactly what he intended. The unified field from the pylons twisted into a powerful spear of energy which was cast upwards towards the Pit of Raucus. The massive warp rift convulsed, described as an eye shutting on a painful intrusion, and rapidly shrank until it was completely gone, effectively closing the pit forever. With victory assured, Cawl did reduce the field strength, as too much anti-warp presence can be dangerous for human survival. But that is one of the greatest developments in Warhammer 40k lore that we have ever seen. You might be wondering at this point in the video, didn't that seem a little bit easy? Didn't they accomplish things a bit too quickly? And you're not the only one to be wondering this. Kvo and Belisarius Cawl have spoken about this, and it turns out that a lot of this may have been planned for already by Vashtorr the Arkifane. In fact, if we have a look through the other books we've talked about today, the Dawn of Fire series, Genefather, Belisarius Cawl the Great Work, it actually turns out that a lot of things Belisarius Cawl has done may have been planned by Vashtorr, because Vashtorr wants Belisarius Cawl for himself. I haven't really covered it in this video, but Vashtorr does play a very important role in the story, and they are clearly setting up something very big for the Arkifane. I have gone through the story in its entirety for members, however, so do check that out if you're interested. And it's not just Vashtorr who seeks Belisarius Cawl. The other thing we find out in this novel for the very first time is the new Fabricator General's name. A new Fabricator General was needed after Araskian died during the Vaults of Terra series. Her name is Zasandera Valde, and she, as we have discussed before on the channel, is basically planning to kill the Emperor, and once the Emperor dies, she will conduct her civil war against the remaining remnants of the Imperium. Naturally, she wants Belisarius Cawl on her side, and it's not hard to see why. He would be a great asset to either side. Nevertheless, the Archmagos does remain loyal to the Imperium of Man, despite all the uses of Xenotech, despite all the tech heresy. He genuinely does still seem to want to serve the Imperium, unify the lost worlds of the Imperium of Man, and serve the Emperor of Mankind. Rabute Guilliman may be growing increasingly annoyed with the Martian, but they're still going to have to work together for a long time yet. That is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think of this story. I think this is going to be a very controversial development for Warhammer 40k, and I'm really interested to hear what you all think. Please remember to check out Raid Shadow Legends, link in the description, it does really help out the channel, and I'll see you next time.